All right, let's talk about one of the coolest, but also one of the hardest things to pull off in D&D, a good mystery. I mean, who doesn't love the idea, right? A dark conspiracy, a shocking murder, but in practice, man, they can fall apart so fast. So today, we're going to dig into why that happens, and more importantly, how you can build an investigation that actually works.
So be honest, you've been there, right? You spent weeks prepping this amazing mystery, and then at the table, it just stalls. Your players are staring at you, completely lost. The clues you thought were so obvious are getting ignored, and you can just feel the energy leaving the room. It is a super common problem, so if that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone.
So how do we fix it? Well, here's our roadmap. We're going to cover 4 main pillars. First, we'll talk about getting into a new mindset. Then we'll get into the practical side of designing for discovery. After that, we'll cover how to keep the game moving with some momentum drivers. And finally, we'll make sure the whole thing actually matters.
Okay, let's jump right into pillar number 1, and this one is by far the most important. You've got to change your mindset. You're not building a puzzle box for your players to solve. You're telling a story together.
This right here, this is the whole problem in a nutshell. Too many of us fall into the trap on the left, the detective game. We come up with one genius solution, and we just expect our players to think exactly like we do to find it. But that's not what D&D is about. We need to be over on the right, in the role-playing game mindset. The goal isn't to be clever, it's to get curious and watch a story unfold with tons of different ways to get to the truth.
And you have to remember this, always. As the DM, you have like this 10,000-foot view of everything. You see all the connections, all the secrets. Your players, they see what's right in front of them. That's it. Expecting them to read your mind is a recipe for disaster. You have to build the whole thing from their perspective, not yours.
Okay, so with that new mindset locked in, let's get practical with pillar 2, designing for discovery. This is all about the architecture of your mystery. It's about building a house with 100 doors, not just one.
So probably the single biggest design flaw in D&D mysteries is what I call the one clue problem. This is when your entire plot relies on the party finding that one scrap of paper or talking to that one specific person. If they miss it, if they failed that one investigation check, the whole adventure just slams into a brick wall. It's a total bottleneck, and we have to get rid of it.
So what's the solution? It's simple, really. Redundancy. You need multiple paths that all lead to the same piece of information. So maybe they can find the killer's name on a dropped letter, or they can persuade a guard to spill the beans, or they can overhear it in a tavern. Heck, maybe they cast Speak with Dead. The point is, no matter what your players try, they have a way to move forward. And here's a pro tip when you're giving out those clues. Clarity is always, always better than subtlety. I know we all want to feel like these genius, subtle storytellers, but your players are drowning in information. They don't know what's a clue and what's just flavor text. So make your clues obvious. Have an NPC gasp when they hear a name. Mention that strange symbol 3 different times. It's not railroading, it's just good, clear design.
All right, so you've built a mystery with lots of doors. Awesome. Now let's talk about pillar 3, driving the momentum. How do you keep the story feeling active and exciting and prevent it from ever slowing down?
Let's start with the classic momentum killer, the failed skill check. We've all done it. A player rolls a 4 and we say, "Sorry, you find nothing," and boom, the game just stops. Instead, we want to be a momentum driver. A failed roll shouldn't mean nothing happens. It should mean a complication happens. Maybe you find a piece of the clue, but now the guards are suspicious. Failure should always push the story in a new, interesting direction.
Another huge piece of this puzzle is your villain. Think about them for a second. Are they just sitting around in their evil fortress waiting to be discovered? Or are they an active part of this story? A great villain doesn't just wait, they react.
So what does that actually look like? Well, once the villain gets wind that the party is sniffing around, they push back. Maybe they send someone to destroy evidence. Maybe that witness the party was about to interview suddenly disappears. Or they could even plant false clues to send the party on a wild goose chase. This escalating response makes the whole world feel alive and raises the stakes like crazy.
And this brings us to our last pillar, which is really the heart and soul of a great mystery, making the story matter. Because at the end of the day, this whole thing isn't just about finding clues, it's about people.
If you look at the DNA of a truly great mystery, it's not what you might think. We tend to focus on things like investigation checks, but honestly, that's just a small slice of the pie. The real meat of it comes from social interaction,
talking to people, learning their motives, their fears, and even more importantly, from the tough choices the players have to make and the consequences that come from those choices.
So you have to ask yourself, what are the stakes? I mean, really, what changes if the players succeed versus if they fail? If the only answer is they solve the case, that's not enough. A great mystery has real consequences. Maybe solving it prevents a war, or maybe it reveals that a beloved NPC is actually a traitor. The outcome has to shake the world in some meaningful way.
This is the question you should have taped to your DM screen for the entire adventure. What will change because of what my players choose to do? The answer should go way beyond just finding the bad guy. It's about how their decisions, their priorities, and their actions fundamentally change the story and the world they live in.
So, when you put all this together, what's the big picture? It's really about a fundamental shift in your role. You stop being a puzzle solver who sets up a test, and you become a story weaver, working with your players to create something amazing and unexpected.
So here's your cheat sheet for your next mystery night. 1. Shift your mindset. It's a story. 2. Design for discovery. Always have more than one path. 3. Drive that momentum. Make failure interesting and your villain active. And 4. Make it all matter. The consequences are everything.
And I want to leave you with this one thought, because it really sums up this entire philosophy. Good D&D investigations aren't about being clever. They're about being curious. If you can build a mystery that rewards your players' curiosity, I promise you, it'll be a game they never forget.